Before the Shire fell into shadow, there was a time of great joy and merriment. The hobbits, ever rooted in simplicity and contentment, held fast to the ancient values of kinship and community. Their hearts were warm, their homes filled with laughter, and their lives guided by a steady love of hearth and family. Hobbiton was regarded by many in Middle-earth as a rare and precious thing, an oasis of peace, as some said, a place where the tumult of the world outside seemed to pass by unnoticed, and the worries of the great and powerful did not reach. In Hobbiton, time itself seemed slow, and in the fields were forever green, untouched by the strife of distant lands. It was a haven where the troubles of the world felt like little more than stories to be shared over a good meal and a pipe. Everything changed when Gandalf the White returned from his visit to Orthanc, bearing with him more than just wisdom and tidings of the world beyond. His longtime friend Saruman, ever the enigma, had bestowed upon him a strange, curious gift, one unlike any the wizard had seen before. This substance, unlike the sour tang of brandy wine, or the haze of the common pipeweed, was fine and pale, and fresh fallen snow. Gandalf, knowing the peculiar taste of the hobbits, could not help but smile at the thought of their likely delight. The gift from Saruman, although veiled in mystery, would surely be loved by those simple folks, whose hearts were open to pleasures both small and fleeting. In the Shire, where every day was ripe for some new form of cheer. It seemed an offering made for them. At first, few could understand what this powder might be, or why it had been given. But Gandalf, with the air of one who knew much and yet said little, watched the hobbits' curiosity grow. At first the hobbits were weary, as they often are of strange things, skeptical, skittish by nature, and slow to embrace what they did not fully understand. It was none other than Lothal, or Pimple, Sackville Baggins, ever eager to distinguish himself from his less ambitious cousins, who first dared to examine the strange gift that Gandalf had brought from Orthanc. Sorry. Many of the hobbits regarded it with suspicion. Lothal, with his characteristic brashness, ventured forth where others hesitated. The white powder, soft as frost upon the window pane, seemed to promise no harm. And so, with a few brave sniffs, Lothal found himself the first to truly partake. It was not long before the others followed suit. For what harm could there be in a thing that made one feel lighter, brighter, as if all the world was a little merrier than it had been a moment before? Whether Gandalf brought it with purpose or by chance, none could say for certain, for the matter is cloaked in both jest and silence. But the hobbits, ever quick to name what pleases them, took to calling it Frost Bliss, a name both merry and deceiving. At first it was spoken of as small delight, a trifling thing, no more than a pinch of snowy wonder passed among friends at festivals and pipe sings. To some, it seemed the very image of hobbit kindness, sweet, playful, and harmless as a summer wind. Yet in time, frost bliss ceased to be a passing fancy and grew into a quiet monster. Where once hobbits rose early to till the earth or stroll by water, now they lingered in shadowed holes and spoke little of their goings. So did that which was first called a gift become the burden of many, and the Shire fell into a state that was unnerving to the eye. It seemed to lose something of its old and honest cheer. The hobbits, once content with hearth and harvest, solely craved the strange and perilous comfort. Frost bliss, an elvish-sounding word for a powder fine as and pale as mountain snow, though no elf would claim it, for they knew of its inherent evils, and it was said among the old gaffers that a day without frost bliss left a hobbit wandering, as if lost in the midst of the bounds. But that too a drought brought a darkness not unlike that of Mordor, wherein even laughter turned to dust. Thus did many hearts grow restless, and many a cellars, once stocked with ale and apples, now held other things, fair to the eye, swift to the nose, but heavy upon the soul. As for the Shire, its fair fields fell quiet. Its fair fields and quiet hills fell into a slow and unseen decay. What had once been a land of simple joy and unspoiled beauty became but a shadow of itself. The green meadows, once brimming with life and laughter, grew sullen and forlorn, and the streets that had echoed the merry footsteps of the hobbits now lay silent, save for the faint stirrings of an unwelcome wind. The light that had once made the Shire a place of warmth and comfort was now dimmed, and the land, though still green, seemed heavy with a malaise none could name. Many hobbits perished during this dark period, though it was not by blade or battle that they fell, but by the quiet, creeping lethargy that frost bliss had wrought upon them. Names once known for their cheer and merriment, such as Tom Chubb, Marigold Gamgee, and Hamfast Proudfoot, faded from memory, as they too were ensnared by the powder's sweet and subtle hold. Even the young Lily Brandybuck felt their hearts grow heavy, their spirits dimming beneath the weight of a joy that was no longer pure, for none could muster the will to tend to their gardens or keep their hearths alight. Such tasks seemed beyond them, as if the very earth had lost its charm. The once bustling market square of Hobbiton stood still, save for the occasional weary hobbit shuffling past with eyes half-lidded, lost in a spell of frost bliss. There was no longer any need for hard work or honest labor, for the joy that had once come from toil and song now seemed to be found in the fleeting ecstasy of the powder. And so it was that only the drags of the Shire remained. Once merry and full of life, the hobbits had fallen from grace, their hearts corrupted by the shadow of frost bliss. Those who lingered no longer the kindly folk, who had once shared the warmth and hearth of the table. Instead, they were a foul breed of scavengers, grifters, cheats, and worse. These scoundrels, who had once been simple farmers, bakers, and millers, now roamed the streets in filth, their face drawn and their eyes hollow. Forever searching for their next gain, they would pilfer from one another without shame, and in the dead of night they could be found huddled in the shadows, whispering and plotting, a far cry from the warm-hearted folk who once sang beneath the party tree. The Shire, that had once been a haven of peace and joy, now echoed only with the scornful laughter of those who had forsaken everything they had been, grasping, greedy, and lost. Was it a dark conspiracy hatched by Gandalf and Saruman to create a plot woven in secret to bring ruin to the Shire? Or was it, as seems more likely, a chain of events set in motion by Gandalf himself in heir of judgment, an unforeseen consequence of his meddling with forces too dangerous to understand? None can say for certain, or perhaps none ever shall. Yet, what is clear is the Shire fell not by the hand of the Shire fell not by the hand of an enemy, but through the folly of one who, for his knowledge of the wide world, failed to foresee and care of his idiocy. Gandalf, though wise in many things, was not so wise when it came to matters. Oh, fuck. Was not so wise when it came to matters of substance abuse and the effects it can have on a population. He brought frostbliss, a gift, some said, but a curse, the ruin of all that had made the Shire the haven it once was. And as for Gandalf himself, he vanished from the Shire without much word of farewell, leaving no trace of his passing behind. Whether he had realized the harm he had caused, or whether he simply wandered on, lost in his own guilt, none can know. His name was spoken of in whispers, but he was never seen again, and the Shire was forever changed.